Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I talk a lot about Salesforce. Today we're going to be going over the Certified Sales Rep Exam Guide from Salesforce. And this is a fairly new exam released by Salesforce, and I kind of wanted to go over, personally I do have this certification. I wanted to go over the exam guide and kind of give you guys a little bit of an overview and insight into how I felt the exam was compared to this exam guide. A couple of plugs before we jump into this is one, I recently released a course on the sales representative exam. So if you are looking for some more in-depth study guide, study materials, we've got a glossary, some notes, we've got practice exam, as well as a full video course that is me doing and going over all the different concepts that you will likely see on the exam. If you would like that, that'll be on salesforceupskill.com, or I will link it down below. So without further ado, grab your coffee, grab your water, grab your tea. Let's go ahead and jump into this guide so we can get you a little bit more acquainted with what you're going to see on this exam. Okay, so this section is just kind of going over what the sales representative credential is. Essentially, you're taking a bunch of different business terminology and business context that you might have learned in working with sales teams or sales teams in the past, and essentially you're being tested on it. There isn't a lot about Salesforce on this actual exam. Some question that is asking about the different products that Salesforce uses and in what scenarios you'd want to use which product. That's about the extent of what Salesforce product offerings, how to use them, is within the sales rep exam. It is a lot more on different sales processes, what to do in certain scenarios, giving you the context, and then what do you do in that context. I guess a few examples from this bulleted list. We're going to talk about business relationships in the exam, creating a sales plan, territories, different solutions based upon customers' needs, how to relationship sell, how to gain commitment when you're in one stage of the selling process, how do you move to the next or know when it's time to move to the next process or stage within the process. And then we'll talk about the customer success strategies that you might use and things that you might see on a customer success standpoint, like using service and order management and order fulfillment. And then also the differences between a pipeline and a forecast is super important. All right, let's go ahead and jump down. This is just telling us the audience. So it says that you should have 6 months to 3 years of experience as a sales rep. Personally, I don't have any experience as a sales rep, but I have worked with sales reps. And so that helped me to, I guess, lean on my experience a little bit more in the exam, but I didn't really feel like I needed to lean on my experience too much from the exam once I understood the terminology that was used on the exam and in what context to use them. So I think that this is totally doable for someone who has no experience as a sales rep. But if you are a Salesforce professional, I do think that this is super useful for you to gain some context into sales teams and working with sales teams. I think that this would be a good precursor to the Sales Cloud exam or the Sales Cloud Consultant exam for you to just have some greater context as far as selling processes. All right, let's go ahead and jump down. Purpose of the exam guide is just to tell you what it's all about. Let's talk about the exam. Okay, so it is 60 to 65 multiple choice questions. Personally, I was pleasantly surprised to see that this exam had a choose 1 out of 3, like how the associate exam and the business analyst exam are. This made it a lot easier to use a process of elimination for questions that I didn't understand. Now at 60 or 65, the 5 non-scored questions are going to be baked within if you do get 65 questions, but only 60 of them are going to be scored. It is about 50-50 for me when I've gotten those 60 versus 65 questions, but don't worry, I felt like there's plenty of time. So the time for this exam is going to be about 105 minutes, which is going to be about an hour and 45 minutes, which I felt was totally enough. Passing score of 70%, which is around 42 questions, I believe. And then the registration fee was $200 for U.S. citizens. Or I guess not U.S. citizens, but if you are in the U.S., and then local taxes with a retake fee of $100 if you need to take it again. You could do it proctored on site or online. Personally, I like doing it online. And references, no hard copy materials or online materials can be referenced, and there's no prerequisite. A couple of things to note about the exam before we move on to the next section. One, this exam was very heavy terminology and soft skills focused. Unlike the admin exam, where it's very much in this scenario, what does Salesforce do or what should you as an admin do? These were a lot more of theories of selling, like the Dale Carnegie selling series method or the 5 things from selling from Dale Carnegie, and how to relationship sell. And in this relationship scenario, what's the best outcome or how can you create the best outcome? So that's the first thing. Another thing was I was pleasantly surprised to see that, at least from this exam, and it's probably changed across all exams, Now you can take notes on screen, and you have those notes go from each question to question. You can't keep them after the exam, but they're still there to help you if you want to remember something that is on a previous question that might help you later on to remember that, or if you wanted to come back to another question and you could write notes from a further question that would help you on a previous question. If you wanted to write notes, you can, which for me, I haven't been able to use, and that is super duper helpful. It's kind of like so pretend like this about the exam is the question. There'd be like a bar right here, and then over here, there'd be a spot to take notes just to type them. All right, and there are some recommended training resources, a trail mix for you to go through. There is some Salesforce help and modules. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the exam outline. So there are 6 sections of this exam, and some of them are really heavy and some of them are really light. I didn't really feel like it was super even. And the sections tend to cross over a lot. Because this is softer skills, it's going to talk about a lot of relationship selling and what to do in certain scenarios. And I could see one question that was supposed to be like in customer engagement, but felt like it belonged in planning. Same with deal management in other spots. There's a lot of crossover. I am going to start off with planning at 21%. So this is going to be a lot of territory planning, how to create an approach for engaging with key accounts, sales quotas, and developing business relationships. So it's going to talk a lot about what types of things do you need to do when you're territory planning, what are best practices with territory planning. Same with sales quotas. What are best practices with sales quotas, things you need to do, people you need to meet with for when you're calculating sales quotas. And then creating and engaging with key accounts as well as developing business relationships. That's going to talk about a lot of how do you best plan to reach out to these people? How should you prepare to reach out to these people? And what strategies should you use to reach out? So that's going to be planning at 21%. Now let's go and jump into customer engagement. So again, there's probably going to be a lot of crossover here. It's going to start off by talking about how to shift the customer's thinking, how to leverage touch points. So this might be reaching out and building relationships with multiple team members, and then also nurturing relationships to drive product adoption. So it's going to talk about different things that you can do, different meetings that you can have to help drive adoption, which is going to cross over with customer success a little bit. How to ask certain questions to help shift your customers' thinking, as well as to understand their business solution or business scenarios, as well as how to position your product to solve those business solutions. So that's going to be customer engagement at 15%. Now we're going to talk about deal management at 37%. So a lot of this is going to be fairly rigid in this section. So there's a lot of different points that you want to cover. This is going to be the 7 steps, I believe, of the sales process and how to qualify a prospect to move into the sales process, as well as when the customer is ready to move on to the next stage of the sales process. Now, each stage of the sales process is going to look a little bit different. So I would recommend understanding what each step of the stage of the sales process is, as well as then when you should keep those moving. And then it's going to talk about engaging with the customer to determine their goals, initiatives, challenges, and scoping out a solution. Again, this is going to be asking really thought-provoking questions to the customer to help understand how your product can best be positioned to solve their issues. And then again, it's going to talk about value proposition, saying this is why our product is the best to help you solve business problems. Then it's going to talk about identifying and removing all of the challenges. So this is going to be a lot of objection handling, and there's going to be different strategies that you'll want to understand when it comes to dealing with objections. When customers may say, oh, the price is just not right for us, or we don't like this portion of the solution, it's not quite the right fit for us. How do you try and work around those objections in the most professional way? So there's 2 parts to this. One, you're going to work around their issues, but you also want to do it in a respectful manner. So that's going to be a 2-parter. And then finally, you're going to talk about customer commitment and closing a formal contract. There's going to be a couple of different types of contracts that you may come across, like a master service agreement, that kind of thing that you'll want to understand. And that is deal management at 37%. That's definitely the biggest section. It has a lot of structured meat to it as far as that one goes, rather where the other sections are going to be a little bit more softer skills. All right, and then next is going to be pipeline management at 12%. It's really important that you understand the difference between pipeline and forecasting. That was a huge thing on the exam. So then, and understanding when to use a pipeline versus a forecast, and the strategies with the pipeline versus the forecast. So it's going to talk about identifying and generating new pipelines. So what are the best strategies when you're trying to get new customers into the pipeline, how to essentially look for leads. You're going to be prospecting, which is going to be a lot of cold calling or reaching out via LinkedIn or emailing, depending on how your business is run. And then it's going to talk a lot about analyzing pipeline health and then explaining pipeline progression and stage velocity. So how fast are our leads and customers going through the pipeline? How can we implement different strategies to increase pipeline progression or increase our pipeline in general? So that's at 12%. Then it's going to be forecasting. And then, so what we're going to talk about is how to ensure forecast accuracy so we can understand how much revenue can we reasonably expect, measure the risks and opportunities associated with a business deal within the pipeline, so which opportunities are at risk of falling out of the forecast and how to mitigate those risks. And then we'll talk about key inputs that drive the forecasting process. And then finally, it's going to be customer success. So customer success is everything after the post-sales customer journey. So once they have a signed contract, we're going to talk about fulfilling orders, what to do when a customer is dissatisfied with their product, how to onboard a customer, how to do all those different things, anything after the initial sales process is closed. Now, this may or may not include any upsell opportunities or any renewal contracts because that would definitely go back into the sales process. And that is going to be the exam. Of course, follow the exam code of conduct. Do not give out any answers to any exams. Yeah, just in general, don't share any information or exam questions or things that you shouldn't. In maintaining your Salesforce certification, currently this is a new credential, so it doesn't have any updates yet and any maintenance modules yet. So just be aware of that when it does come up, that you may need to do a trailhead module in order to keep this certification. Personally, I check a couple times a year if my certifications are up to date. Just do that and make sure you don't lose your certs. But with that being said, I hope that you found this insight a little bit useful towards getting this new certification. You can check out the course down below in the description. I'll leave a link to it. We are super excited to release it. You can check out all the other courses at salesforceupskill.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter at EmilyCallMBA. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.